Welcome to Mindset and Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Imagine you are, well, just completely exhausted.
Oh yeah, running on totally empty.
Right. You have been wandering the streets of downtown Chicago for hours trying to find this very specific destination. You were trying everything you could think of.
Like walking faster.
Exactly. Walking faster, thinking positively, adjusting your attitude. But no matter what you do, you are completely hopelessly lost.
That is the worst feeling.
It really is. And then finally, you realize the problem. Through some printing error, the map you have been holding, the map clearly labeled Chicago, is actually a map of Detroit.
Oh, wow. It is such a brilliantly frustrating image, isn't it?
Yeah, it really puts it into perspective. Welcome to the Mindset and Stone podcast, everyone. I'm so thrilled to get into this deep dive today.
Same here, because, no amount of positive thinking is going to help you find your way in Chicago if you are holding a map of Detroit.
Right.
And that perfectly captures the mission for our deep dive today. We are exploring a stack of notes, excerpts, and core concepts from Stephen Covey's profound work on human effectiveness.
Which is just legendary material.
It really is. And the goal here is to completely strip away the superficial, quick-fix solutions that modern self-help culture just loves to sell us.
Oh, definitely. The hacks and the shortcuts.
Exactly. We want to dig down and discover the deep, principle-centered roots of lasting success, genuine relationships, and personal peace.
Because if your fundamental perception of reality is even slightly misaligned, it will absolutely ruin your best efforts.
It really will.
So, we have to begin by examining the difference between what society tells us will make us successful and what actually creates lasting, genuine change.
Right.
Looking through our sources, there's this fascinating historical shift that happened in American success literature.
Yeah, the timeline on this is super interesting.
It is. For the first 150 years or so, success was almost entirely focused on what is called the character ethic.
Meaning the deep stuff.
Exactly. We are talking about foundational traits. Integrity, humility, fidelity, courage, patience. The golden rule. It was all about integrating basic principles of effective living, like deep within your nature.
But then, something shifted. Shortly after World War I, the basic societal view of success moved away from that character ethic and shifted into what we call the personality ethic. Success became much less about who you actually are in the dark and much more about your public image, your attitudes, and your behaviors.
Right, like public relations.
Exactly. We saw the rise of quick-fix influence techniques, PR skills, and the idea of manipulating your public image to get what you want. It became about the hacks, the shortcuts to make people like you.
And I think we see this on steroids today. It's the obsession with the right Instagram filter for your life, or, the perfect networking script to use on LinkedIn.
Oh, absolutely. Faking a persona for a job interview instead of actually building the skills.
Right. But there's a perfect analogy in our notes to understand why relying entirely on the personality ethic ultimately fails. Think about it like trying to cram on a farm.
Cram on a farm? I love that so much.
Right. We all know that in a school system, which, let's be honest, is kind of an artificial social system, you can sometimes slack off all semester and then just cram the night before a test.
We have all been there.
Yeah. You memorize the flashcards, you pass, you get the grade. The shortcut works.
For a minute, anyway.
Exactly. But imagine how ridiculous it would be to try to cram on a farm. You can't forget to plant in the spring, play around all summer, and then suddenly panic and cram in the fall to bring in the harvest.
No, it is physically impossible.
You cannot fake the natural law of the harvest.
And that is because natural systems, they don't care about your public relations skills. You can't sweet talk a cornfield.
That is a great way to put it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it brings us to the difference between primary greatness and secondary greatness.
Okay, break that down for us.
So, secondary greatness is the social recognition for your talents. It's the charm, the communication skills, the polished public image.
The stuff people see you right away.
Right. But primary greatness is the actual goodness of your character. In the short term, you might absolutely be able to use the personality ethic to make a favorable impression. You can fake it for an interview or a first date.
Sure. We all put our best foot forward.
But in long-term relationships, a flawed character cannot be hidden by smooth communication skills.
That is such a crucial distinction. Because if there is little or no trust, there is no foundation for permanent success. Secondary traits alone have absolutely no permanent worth in a long-term relationship.
None at all.
There's a great saying that applies here. What you are shout so loudly in my ears, I cannot hear what you say.
Yes, you can memorize all the active listening techniques in the world, but if your underlying character is manipulative, people will eventually feel it.
They always do. So for you listening right now, I want you to evaluate a current struggle in your life.
It could be anything, really.
Yeah, maybe it is a strained relationship with a sibling, or a career hurdle, or a personal health goal you keep missing. Ask yourself honestly, are you applying a social Band-Aid?
Right, the quick fix.
Are you relying on the personality ethic to just smooth things over quickly? Or are you planting deep roots, doing the unglamorous daily work of the character ethic and actually paying the price of the harvest?
It is a difficult mirror to look into, but, knowing you need to plant deep roots is essentially useless if you don't even know what field you're standing in.
Which brings us back to the map.
Which is why Covey argues that before we change our character, we have to audit our perception of reality. We have to look at our paradigms.
Paradigms. This is where that gets thrown around a lot in corporate boardrooms, usually right before someone introduces, a new software system.
Oh, totally. It's such a buzzword.
But what does it actually mean in this specific context?
In this context, paradigms are simply our mental maps. Like we said at the very beginning, the map is not the territory. A paradigm is a theory, an explanation, or a model of something else. We all carry these maps in our heads of the way things are and the way things should be.
And we probably don't even realize we're doing it.
Most of the time, no. We interpret everything we experience through these mental maps, usually without ever questioning their accuracy.
And to illustrate the sheer power of these maps, there is an incredible historical account published in the magazine of the Naval Institute. It is about a battleship.
Battleship and the Lighthouse. It is such a fantastic story.
It really is.
So, 2 battleships are at sea. It is dark, visibility is super poor, patchy fog everywhere. The lookout on the lead battleship reports a light bearing on the starboard bow.
Setting the scene.
Right. So the captain asks if the light is steady or moving. The lookout says it is steady, which means they are on a direct collision.
So the captain gets on the signal and tells the oncoming ship, change course 20 degrees.
And the signal flashes back. Advisable for you to change course 20 degrees.
Which I imagine does not go over well with a battleship captain.
Not at all. The captain is offended. He sends back, I am a captain, change course 20 degrees.
And the reply flashes back, I am a seaman second class. You had better change course 20 degrees. Now the captain is absolutely livid. I mean, he spits out, change course 20 degrees.
And the final flashing light comes back. I am a lighthouse.
Oh, man. I love that so much.
And of course, the battleship changed course. The captain's paradigm, his mental map of the situation, was dangerously limited. He saw a reality that was completely constructed by his own ego and expectations.
But wait, I have to push back here a little bit. In that story, the captain found out he was wrong because the lighthouse explicitly told him.
Right.
In real life, lighthouses don't talk. If our maps are fundamentally flawed and we interpret everything through them, how do we even know we are making a mistake?
That is a very fair point.
If we are so blind to our own paradigms, how do we ever fix them?
The answer lies in the psychological mechanism of a paradigm shift. It is that sudden sort of aha experience when someone finally sees the picture in another way.
Okay, so a sudden realization.
Yeah, and it usually happens when we receive new, undeniable information that shatters our current map.
There is a beautiful everyday example of this in the notes. Imagine riding a subway in New York on a quiet Sunday morning. People are sitting peacefully, reading newspapers, resting.
Sounds nice.
It is. But suddenly, a man and his children enter the subway car. The children are absolutely chaotic. They're loud, obnoxious, yelling back and forth, throwing things, even grabbing people's papers.
That would be infuriating.
Right. And the father just sits there, completely oblivious, doing absolutely nothing to stop them.
If you are sitting on that train, your paradigm immediately provides an explanation.
Of course it does.
Your map tells you this man is an irresponsible father. He lacks discipline. He doesn't respect the social contract of public spaces. You feel intensely irritated, and importantly, you feel entirely justified in that irritation.
Right. So, feeling that justified anger, you turn to the man and ask him, perhaps a bit sharply, if he could control his children.
And the man lifts his gaze as if coming to consciousness for the very first time and says softly that they just came from the hospital where the children's mother died an hour ago.
Oh, man.
He says he doesn't know what to think, and the kids don't know how to handle it either.
Notice what happens in your brain at that exact second. Instantly, the paradigm shifts. The map of the situation is redrawn. You go from feeling intense judgment to overwhelming compassion. You don't have to force yourself to be nicer. You don't have to practice a positive mental attitude. Because the map changed, your behavior and your attitude changed effortlessly.
That gives me chills every time I hear it. It proves that we can't just try to change our behavior on the surface. We have to change the lens through which we are seeing the world.
Exactly.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, those lighthouses we mentioned earlier, those are natural principles. Things like human dignity, fairness, service, and quality.
They are fixed points.
Yes. They are natural laws that cannot be broken. It is impossible for us to break the law. We can only break ourselves against the law. If our paradigm is misaligned with these lighthouse principles, we will ultimately crash.
So the next time you hit a wall with a project, or you find yourself intensely frustrated with a coworker or a partner, I want you to pause.
Take a breath.
Ask yourself, am I looking at a map of Detroit while trying to navigate Chicago? Step back and examine your own lens before you try to fix the other person.
But once we realize our paradigm might be flawed, the natural question is, where do we begin the fix? If the map is wrong, how do we redraw it?
Right. What is the first step?
The answer is that we must adopt the inside-out approach.
Meaning that private victories must always precede public victories.
Yeah.
You cannot fix the world until you fix yourself.
Exactly.
There is a deeply personal story in our notes about a husband and wife agonizing over their son's struggles. The boy was doing poorly in school, he was socially immature, and he was struggling in baseball. Other kids were literally laughing at him.
Which is heartbreaking as a parent.
Truly. The parents' initial approach was very much from the outside in. They tried to psych him up with all those personality ethic techniques. You can do it. Keep your eye on the ball.
But the parents eventually realized something uncomfortable. Their well-intended cheerleading was actually rooted in their own social embarrassment.
Wow. That is a hard truth to face.
It is. Their underlying paradigm, their true mental map, was that their son was fundamentally inadequate and needed to be protected. And children are incredibly perceptive.
They pick up on everything.
They do. Despite all the positive words, that underlying feeling of inadequacy was exactly what the parents were communicating to him.
So they completely shifted to the inside-out approach. They stopped trying to fix the boy. They separated their own ego and self-worth from his baseball performance.
Which takes a lot of maturity.
It does. They decided to just relax, get out of his way, and affirm his individual worth regardless of his skills. And once the unspoken message became, "You are fundamentally okay just as you are," he naturally blossomed.
This illustrates a vital framework. The circle of influence versus the circle of concern. Every single problem we face falls into one of these two circles.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Our circle of concern includes everything we care about but can't really control. The economy, what other people think of us, the weather, our son's baseball talent. Reactive people focus all their efforts here. They obsess over the weakness of other people and their environment.
Okay, I need to stop you there. If you have a toxic boss who is ruining your life, or your rent just went up 30%, telling someone to just focus on what you can control sounds incredibly privileged.
It can sound that way, yes.
At best, it sounds like sticking your head in the sand and ignoring reality. How is focusing only on the circle of influence, not just willful ignorance?
That is a very fair critique. It does sound like ignoring reality. But let's look at the psychological mechanics of what actually happens when you obsess over the circle of concern.
Okay, lay it on me.
When you focus on the toxic boss's personality or the macroeconomic housing market, you are generating negative energy over things you cannot change. This victimhood mindset actually causes your circle of influence to shrink.
Oh, interesting. So you actually lose power.
Yes. You lose the energy to do the things you can actually do, like updating your resume, setting a hard boundary with that boss, or finding a roommate. Proactive people don't ignore the storm. They just refuse to yell at the clouds. They focus strictly on building a better shelter.
Anytime we think the problem is out there, that very thought is the problem.
That is a powerful quote.
It hit me hard. Because by thinking the problem's out there, we empower the outside world to control us. We hand over the keys to our own emotional state.
Yes. And a highly practical way to apply this inside-out approach is what we can call the instant mistake correction.
I love this concept.
It is so practical. When you make a mistake, which is an event in the past, putting it firmly in your circle of concern since you obviously can't change it, acknowledge it instantly, correct it, and learn from it. Do not try to justify it or rationalize it.
Because covering it up is a second mistake.
Exactly. Not acknowledging a mistake puts you on a self-deceiving path. It empowers the first mistake and causes deeper injury to your character. Acknowledge it immediately so that it has no power over your next moment. That keeps you firmly empowered in your circle of influence.
Let's say you mess up a presentation at work. Instead of blaming the projector or your team, you just say, I messed that up. Here's how I will fix it tomorrow.
Right. It takes away all the anxiety.
Okay, so we are working exclusively from the inside out. We are focusing on our circle of influence. But let's be real. That requires a massive amount of sustainable energy.
It is not easy.
No. It is exhausting to constantly take the high road. How do we keep from burning out while trying to be so highly effective?
To answer that, we have to look at the engine of effectiveness itself. And it is best explained through Aesop's classic fable of the goose and the golden egg. A poor farmer discovers that his goose has laid a glittering golden egg. He can't believe his luck, and the goose continues to lay one golden egg every single day. The farmer becomes fabulously wealthy. He becomes greedy and impatient. He wants all the gold at once, so he cuts the goose open, only to find nothing inside. The goose is dead, and there will be no more golden eggs.
It is a children's story, but the implications for adult life are massive.
They really are.
The balance between the golden egg, which we can call production, or P, and the health of the goose, which is production capability, or PC, is the core formula of all effectiveness.
That P over PC balance is the definition of effectiveness. It balances the short-term yield with the long-term capacity to produce. Pushing for too much P, too much production, too many golden eggs ruins health, wears out machines, depletes bank accounts, and breaks relationships.
And we see this everywhere in modern culture. We run ourselves like machines, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We drink 4 cups of coffee, we sleep 4 hours a night, we answer emails at midnight.
Oh, the hustle culture is real.
We are so obsessed with getting the golden eggs at work that we completely forget we are the goose. Like, skipping sleep for 3 days to finish a project might give you a golden egg today, but next week you crash and burn and lose weeks of productivity. If the goose dies of exhaustion, the production stops entirely. We treat our smartphones better than our own bodies. At least we remember to plug our phones in to recharge.
Which is why the daily Private Victory is non-negotiable.
Tell us about that.
You have to dedicate a minimum of 1 hour a day strictly to renewing yourself. You have to sharpen the saw in your physical, mental, and spiritual dimensions. Exercise, read something outside your field, meditate, plan.
So protecting the goose.
Yes. This is not a luxury. It is not something you do just if you have time. It is the mandatory maintenance of your production capability.
So, assuming we are actively taking care of the goose and we are managing ourselves from the inside out, we are finally ready to step outside of our own heads.
Right. The foundation is set.
We become ready to meaningfully connect with others. The sources describe this as moving along the maturity continuum.
Yes. The maturity continuum is a framework for human growth. We all start life completely dependent on others. As we grow, we strive for independence, the ability to take care of ourselves, to be self-reliant.
And society often champions independence as the ultimate goal.
They do, but it's not. The highest level of maturity is interdependence. It is the realization that we can accomplish vastly more together than we ever could alone. But true synergetic interdependence, where the whole is truly greater than the sum of its parts, requires a massive shift in how we communicate.
And that brings us to empathic listening. Because most of us do not listen with the intent to understand. We listen with the intent to reply.
We are always formulating our next sentence.
Exactly. We are always either speaking or preparing to speak. We filter everything another person says through our own paradigms.
We read our own autobiography into their lives.
Yes, the metaphor used for this is brilliant. We constantly project our own home movies onto other people's behavior. We try to hand our own prescription glasses to someone else.
Which never works.
Imagine taking off your glasses, handing them to a friend who is struggling to read, and then getting incredibly frustrated when they say they still can't see clearly. You'd be like, what do you mean you can't see? These glasses work great for me. Try harder.
But we do this all the time emotionally. Someone comes to us with a problem, say, your partner vents about their day at work, and our immediate response is, oh, I know exactly how you feel. Let me tell you about what happened to me. Or we try to fix it instantly.
Right, we just hand them our glasses.
Exactly. To demonstrate how terribly this works, let's look at a typical conversation between a father and his teenage son. The son comes in, throws his backpack down, and says, Dad, I've had it. School is for the birds.
If I'm the dad, I immediately jump into one of our 4 standard reactive communication tendencies.
Yeah.
We evaluate, we probe, we advise, and we interpret.
Right. So the father probes. He says, what's the matter, son? The son says school is totally impractical and he's not learning anything. So the father advises. He says, you just can't see the benefits yet. I felt the exact same way when I was your age. You just need to stick it out.
The father is evaluating and interpreting the son's experience entirely through his own lens. But why do we do this? It's not just because we are bad listeners.
No, there is a psychological reason.
Right. Psychologically, when someone brings us a negative emotion, it creates anxiety in us. We want to solve the problem quickly so we can feel comfortable again. The father wants to help? Yes. But he also wants to control the situation. By giving advice, he asserts authority, but he completely shuts down the son's willingness to share what is actually going on.
Empathic listening is the antidote to this ego-driven communication. It is entirely different. It is like peeling an onion layer by layer without any judgment.
That sounds hard.
It is really hard. You are genuinely seeking the welfare of the individual. You let the person get to the problem and the solution at their own pace. You don't hand them your glasses. You simply reflect their feelings and their words, trying to completely map out their paradigm.
So instead of saying, I felt the same way, you might say, it sounds like you're feeling really frustrated with how school connects to your future. You are just mirroring.
And when you do this, your circle of influence with that person expands dramatically. Because you really listen, you become influenceable. And paradoxically, being influenceable is the absolute key to influencing others. When people feel deeply understood, they drop their defenses. To truly touch the soul of another human being by deeply listening is, well, it is to walk on holy ground.
That is a profound place to land. Let's take a breath and look at the tremendous ground we have covered today.
We covered a lot.
We really did. We started by ditching the superficial quick fixes of the personality ethic and committing to the deep, unglamorous roots of the character ethic. We examined how our mental maps dictate our reality and how a paradigm shift can instantly change our behavior.
Then we moved to the inside.
Right. We shifted to the inside-out approach, taking ownership of our circle of influence rather than playing the victim in our circle of concern. We learned how to protect our energy by balancing our production with our production capability, keeping the goose healthy.
Have to protect the goose.
Always. And finally, we discovered that true interdependence requires us to take off our own prescription glasses and practice empathic listening.
Which brings us to a listener challenge for this week. We challenge you to pick one specific strained relationship in your life right now.
Just one.
Pick an interaction where you have been relying on the personality ethic. Maybe you're trying to use charm or subtle manipulation or quick advice to get the other person to just shape up and do what you want. This week, switch entirely to the character ethic. Sit down with that person and simply listen to them without any intent to reply.
That is going to be tough.
It will be. Suppress the urge to offer solutions. Seek only to understand their map of the territory.
I love that challenge. It forces us to do the hard work of building primary greatness instead of just chasing secondary greatness. And I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to ponder as you go about your week.
Let's hear it.
It builds on everything we have discussed about moving from independence to interdependence. What if true effectiveness isn't actually about what we accomplish on our own? What if true effectiveness is simply about becoming the kind of person whose very character acts as a lighthouse, naturally guiding others through the fog? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep navigating, keep growing, and we will see you next time.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.